Craig, if you're Manchester United, we talked about this last week, and you want to get Kane to Old Trafford, 200 million would do it. However, the problem is then that's it. You wouldn't be able to buy anybody else. Would it be worth it in your view?
Well, you wouldn't be looking at the likes of Jadon Sancho and one or two others that they want to add to the Bruno Fernandes signing. And although we had Danny Higginbottom on last week who thought they were 2 to 3 players away from challenging, as you know, I would beg to differ on that front. I think the squad needs an overhaul. So you've got to make that balance. But on the other side of the coin, there's 2 players out there in the natural role of strikers who you would look at coming in and absolutely making a difference. One of those you're not going to get, and he's in his 30s now, Robert Lewandowski, who is the best out-and-out striker on the planet, in my opinion. The next is the injured currently Harry Kane. Now, the question is how much does Harry Kane want to push for a move away from Tottenham Hotspur? Because we know how much power lies within players and their agents. But the bottom line is Harry Kane would make a huge difference to Manchester United, but it wouldn't make enough of a difference, in my opinion, to get them challenging Liverpool and Man City on that signing alone. So that is a fine balancing act in terms of trying to bring players to a football club.
So would you avoid it, Craig?
If I thought I could go and get Harry Kane, I would go and get Harry Kane, right? Because, as I said, next to Robert Lewandowski, he's the best natural striker at a good age range, that is, out there at this moment in time. So if I absolutely could bring Harry Kane to the football club, would I go and do it? Yeah. But if you're targeting 3 or 4 signings and you want to blow all the money in one, that's a decision that they have to make. But I get the feeling, and I don't know, maybe Gab will correct me on the financial fair play aspect, but I get the feeling that 200 million is not going to be their budget if they want to go and spend and revamp that squad. They have the financial clout to go out there and muscle a few transfers in.
Go on, Gab.
Did I hear Craig willingly bring up the term financial fair play there? So I'm going to bite. Obviously, it depends on many different things, and the fact that financial fair play will likely be relaxed for the 2019-20 season because of the pandemic. But United aren't going to have issues with financial fair play. I look at it more on a footballing level. I just think if you're Manchester United, you've got a ton of money to spend. You're not affected by FFP. However, while Harry Kane is a great striker, he's also somebody who suffered injuries of different kinds, and I think 3 of the last 4 seasons. A guy who's injured now. He's supposedly coming back, but we haven't seen him play. You already have a very good center forward in Marcus Rashford, who's also injured, but he's already there. He's coming back. I just kind of feel £200 million is still an enormous amount of money. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that, by the way, in the post-pandemic football economy. I think you're much better served letting Greenwood develop, seeing what Rashford can do for you, strengthening in other areas of the pitch, and then maybe thinking about taking a run at Erling Haaland, not this summer, but the summer after that, when supposedly his clause kicks in, rather than going out and committing all this money to somebody who's a phenomenal player. But Harry Kane right now is a last piece of the puzzle kind of guy, because you're going to get maybe 5-6 years out of him, given his age and his injuries. And I don't think United are at that stage right now, in my opinion.
Didn't Haaland just turn down United?
Well, yeah, he turned down United at this stage of his career, but everybody who's been around him and says that it's not like he's turned United down because he doesn't ever want to play for Manchester United. He turned United down because he didn't think it was the right step for him right now. But in a year or two's time, and look, I'm not saying it's a Haaland versus Kane, one versus the other. Maybe it's not Haaland. Maybe you go for somebody else. Maybe you go for another center forward, or maybe Rashford is fit and Greenwood is great, and those 2 guys are your central strikers, and maybe you go and you strengthen in midfield or at left back. I mean, United are one club because of some of the cuts that they made last season, and because they continue to churn out money, they're one club that is likely to be a lot less affected by the financial squeeze than anybody else. So in theory, they're well versed to go out and shop if that's what they want to do. But bringing in a veteran player like Harry Kane at this stage, I'm not sure it necessarily makes sense.
I think one of the problems here for United, Gab, is they're going to make a decision because, in some senses, because I said last week, you make a statement signing that attracts potentially other players when you're trying to sell the football club. Now, United have never had a problem selling themselves on the financial side, certainly not in recent years. But on the footballing platform, it's been a bit of a struggle since Sir Alex left. Now, if I am another player X, Y, or Z want to come to your club and I've just signed Harry Kane or whoever it is, then that for me is an extra selling point. So they have to make a decision down the line because let's go back to the Erling Haaland position here. A year or two down the line, he's still flying at Borussia Dortmund. He's still the hottest property. But United haven't made any of those big signings. They haven't really taken the football operations that far forward. They are still trailing behind Liverpool and Man City. This is all hypothetical. But then your top players start looking elsewhere at other top clubs, at those two clubs I just mentioned, at Barcelona, at Real Madrid, at Bayern Munich. So United, in some sense, while not wanting necessarily to go out and spend that money, have to make a statement to try and get the snowball effect of bringing other big players to the club. They have to spend to try and get others to believe that they're going in the right direction. That's a big problem for them.
Meanwhile, Harry Kane may be on Old Trafford. Paul Pogba, though, leaving. Suggestions saying that he could be going back to Juventus, Gab.
Yeah, look, this is an old story. It keeps going on and whatever. The reality is Paul Pogba, we saw him play very briefly when he came back. Otherwise, nobody's really seen him since September. I don't think he's going anywhere until he's fully fit. As far as Juventus are concerned, we'll see what their finances look like going forward. But the reality is at the 6-month mark, they racked up a pretty big loss. They'll hopefully claw some of that back. I think it's way premature for anybody to be thinking about Juventus, or rather, Juventus need to be thinking about thinning out their ranks a little bit because they have a ton of players under contract who are still under contract next season. I think before they want to go and start thinking about Paul Pogba.
Strange, isn't it, Craig? Because you could talk about Paul Pogba, but we haven't seen him since September.
Yeah, obviously it's been a troubling season for him, but it doesn't negate the guy's talent. It just hasn't happened for him consistently at Man United. The support act hasn't been great, it has to be said, but I don't think there's any much debate out there that he could have done more. Look, this is, as Gab said, Juventus have a huge squad. There are financial burdens. This, it would seem, is wishful thinking from Man United. Everyone's happy. They get a huge fee for him. They move the player on. He goes on to continue his career. They sort of negate some of the losses from that transfer. It's sort of wishful thinking all around. Everything's going to come out when this pandemic is over, hopefully very, very soon, and we get back to some sort of normality. I think ultimately, in an ideal world, both player and club move in a different direction, and United get what they can for him, and Paul Pogba goes on and showcases his talent elsewhere. There is a chance that he could stay at United. Of course, he's under contract and play and have some semblance of success. But I get the feeling there's too much water has gone under the bridge with both himself and the agent and the club that all parties, I think, in my opinion, want to see a split of some sense. And it's just how they can make that split happen to best negate the losses for Man United and get Paul Pogba what he wants, which is to go somewhere else and be happy and enjoy his football again.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.